Welcome to another episode of our weekly Bitcoin mining conversation featuring the founder of and owner of Liquid Hash, Nick Campisi. This week, we're going to address some of the recent news stories surrounding Bitcoin. So let's just dive in. So Nick, we've seen that within the last few weeks that the price of Bitcoin has been dramatically falling, but within the past few days, it's showing signs of rallying. Why is this happening, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm out in the field right now deploying a Bitcoin mine. We're building a new facility. And so I've been really tied up with that. So I really have not followed every little bit of nuance in the market. But, I think that overall, it has been aggressively oversold in the last couple months here. And so I think, it's a bear market rally. Look, do I want to be optimistic that things could turn right back around? Of course, but until we've got some macro headwinds right now, and with the Fed's hawkish stance, unless we see some kind of pause or reversal on that, I think we're going to have more pain. And quite frankly, I think that it's what I'm looking for is a sideways action. If for someone who's out deploying capital into the space in the mining sector, sideways action is great because it allows us to scoop up more hash power and deploy capital at favorable rates.
Gotcha. So amidst all of this volatility that is quite profitable sometimes, definitely, are you continuing to build Bitcoin mines and to continue to suggest that people build mines and just keep mining through the volatility, or how does that flow work?
Yeah, so there's a saying that I don't know, gosh, it's been around for a while though. It's bear markets are for building. And that's exactly what we're doing. We were not expecting to see a bear market hit quite this fast, but we immediately pivoted and are in the position now to start deploying capital and help smart investors who are willing to go into a mine right now when historically it's the best time when you're at rates that are a fraction of what you're normally up against to deploy capital in.
So would you say to someone who's listening that they should start thinking about building a mine now, or would you wait for some form of stability at the bottom?
Well, here's the problem is when you get to that stability, you are going to end up with a situation that all of a sudden is going to be, now can I get the miner and the equipment? And so if you're looking now, the time, these things are not, you don't just decide, hey, I want a 2 megawatt Bitcoin mine overnight. It takes some time to be able to put together a plan for all your engineering, your electrical, building any permits. And so it is very important that if you have interest to go ahead and get going. If you're trying to time the market, I think, in any time in the coming year here is going to be an excellent time to deploy capital into this space.
Perfect. So jumping to our next section of news regarding Bitcoin, I've been hearing a lot about different countries in the world passing regulations regarding Bitcoin. So regarding regulation in the US, what would happen if the government did pass regulating laws and such about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining?
Yeah, look, I think, regulation is probably the biggest risk, but could be one of the biggest de-risking of this whole industry. And so right now there is a lot of just speculation on, hey, what's going to happen. But, to say what would happen, it would most likely be, let's just point back to China. Last year, China says, hey, no more mining. So what happened was the example of the Bitcoin game theory in real life was all the miners in China went to another country. So if the US government passed, then there would be somewhere that would figure out, hey, we could get a lot of tax revenue, we could get a lot of new business and economic activity. And we're already seeing it. You have places like El Salvador that's attracting miners to come and set up there. Places in South America. So I'm not concerned with mining being banned. So I don't think that would be something that would be done on a U.S. level. However, if it were, it would simply just push all the miners into a more friendlier jurisdiction.
Very interesting. So, besides regulations and the dramatic volatility of this last year or 5 years more of, is there anything else on the horizon that could greatly affect Bitcoin that people aren't really thinking about yet?
Yeah, I mean, there's things that are, I think, very positive laws that could come into play on a national level, and a good example of one is that, as a miner right now, it's been an opinion that, is, hey, when you mine a Bitcoin, the price of that Bitcoin at today's value is considered taxable at the time of receipt when you mine it. And that's like saying, someone goes out and pulled gold out the ground today, and it took them a while to process it and go all that. They just had it processed and they got one price. And typically with a gold miner, it's the price that they sell it for becomes book value or in question income, not the case with a miner where it's the day or the second that you receive it. So if that law changes, then it's going to change mining economics. I mean, people are already going back. There was a case that was cited just recently that now is giving the inclination that a miner, because the way that they were receiving, is the case that I've said is the way that most miners have been paying taxes. But there was a case not long ago that the IRS settled, and they didn't give a definitive ruling on it. However, what it basically says is that no, it's when you sell it. So people are going back and filing amended returns based on legal opinions. And, I think that things like that could dramatically affect the profitability of a mining company. And, those are things from a more macro standpoint on Bitcoin itself. I think we all know that at some point they're going to start printing money again. And when I say they, I mean the U.S. government specifically. And when that, they're continuing to print every day. But when the quantitative easing and or the lack of tightening, whatever the case may be, it's going to continue driving the upward pressure on the price of Bitcoin over time. Will it continue to have pullbacks and volatility? Sure. But over time, if we look at this from a long macro point of view, it's kind of, to quote Michael Saylor, it's gone up forever.
Gotcha. So it's really interesting to see all these things that are happening in the world of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's relatively very new compared to like the US dollar or the stock market or something. It's a completely new system and a currency. So it's very interesting to see how future events can affect this entire thing. And that kind of leads into this next question. Is there any limit to what the price of Bitcoin can be?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I kind of mentioned was, in fiat dollar terms, I see it just continuing to go up if you're pricing it in US dollars. That's why, it's very important to look at it. There's only going to ever be 21 million, and it's going to be another 120 years before all of those are mined and every coin's in circulation. And then you've got some transaction fee that's going to come when you're moving it around. But, you look at everything divided by 21 million. And I think that, if Bitcoin does what I think it'll do, is become, a global reserve currency or store value, that it's going to suck up the value of everything. And so, in a US dollar term, it's very easy to see how it just continues to go up and up and up over time. And, I tell everyone those, just understand that that's also the cost of your dollar going down, so it's important not to have, that fiat mindset, but to think of it more in a Bitcoin standard and say, how many of them, can I get, and what can I do to increase my holdings? And that's why, I'm so bullish in mining, is because it's an arbitrage. It's a play to get more Bitcoin at a sub price that you can buy it at the day that you deploy that equipment.
Gotcha. So I guess in summary of our conversation, Bitcoin is new, it's exciting, new form of currency, and it sounds like everyone can be a part of it, whether you have a small little mine or you do have an excess energy source that you can plug in a mine into, operated by Liquid Hash. Sounds like everyone should just be a participant in the network. That's my plan, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's encouraged to I think everyone should have some exposure of money that you're okay with not having to access, and look at it as a savings. I mean, that's really it. It's a store of value, and just holding it will reward you over time. You don't have to invest it. And, if it makes sense, I think any accredited investor should really look at getting into mining, because there's a lot of tax advantages as well in mining yourself. If it's way out of your wheelhouse, and you absolutely, there's other ways that you can get into it. But, I personally would love to say everyone should run a miner at their house right now. Unfortunately, it just doesn't make sense. These are loud devices, and so there's starting to be some products on the market that allow you to cut the noise and the heat down and things, or use the heat in the winter to heat your home. So, but yes, participate in the network. That's what makes the network so valuable, is its decentralization, and anyone can be a part of it.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for all the knowledge you've shared with the audience. And thank you for everyone who has also listened to this week's episode. If you have any questions or want to build a Bitcoin mine that is powered by your excess energy source, please go to www.liquidhash.com, which is liquiihash.com. See you all next week, and thank you again, Nick.
Hey, thanks, Riley.